Yeah, welcome to this very, very nice conference. I think it's time to talk about the artist's point of view in this case. I'd like to give you an update on our point of view on the current discussion about, for example, copyright versus freedom issue and the new chances and challenges we are facing these days. I would like to divide my keynote speech into three parts. First part is the premises part, second part is the next market, and the third part is the before mentioned freedom versus copyright issue. So, starting with the premises, obviously the internet gives all of us a lot of chances and challenges alike. So I think it's needless to say that the artist in these days has the unique chance to interact with his audience via, obviously, Facebook and all these social communities, which is a very, 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 very exciting way for us to somehow get in touch with our audience and to somehow build a very, very direct artist-audience relation. Now, this means, on the other hand, that the audience can also get in touch with the artist more directly than in those days. Those days meaning you just write a letter, send it to some address and hope that eventually somebody will read it. Today, you can really interact with your favorite artist a little bit more direct, which also means that the challenge for the artist's world is to somehow provide a really constant stream of content, being it like Facebook messages, Twitters, photos, music, whatever. So in those days, you just could hide in your creative chamber, in your torture chamber, so to speak, and just try to think of new music. And after 2 years, you just pop out again and you say, well, here I am, and this is what I brought you. Maybe you like it, hopefully you do, and maybe not. Today, we are facing the constant demand of a constant, well, of providing constant information and constant content, which is nice, but it's different. So the quality of this content somehow has to be maintained, otherwise the audience will disappear. So that's one thing which basically which might distract the artist from his core competence, which is basically being creative and trying to come up with some melodies and some lyrics, which then again are supposed to touch people. So these premises given, which are very nice, because as I said, I consider this being an opportunity and a chance for the artist. And of course, the artist has to pick up that chance and he has to face that challenge. That's very, very, very important and very, very good. Now, the second part would be the next market. I think we all remember the times, those days in which, we bought the CD or maybe even a vinyl, we went home, we basically cleaned the vinyl, we put it onto the record player and very carefully putting the needle onto the newly bought vinyl and basically more or less listening to the music and inhaling every note. This has changed, obviously, and I don't want to go into these, okay, in those days everything was better. It was not, believe me. But we tried somehow to substitute this physical market with the non-physical market, meaning that the industry tried to transform this CD into a download. We are aware of that, nothing new. But interestingly enough, we are going to basically skip this download phase and we will move directly into the subscription phase, which means that before the physical market, which still is about 80% regarding the sales figures, 80% compared to 20% digital download sales, this download sales market will not even come to 100% because before that we are moving towards the so-called subscription market models. For example, Spotify, I'm sure you have heard of that before. Spotify, you pay $10 a month, and then you have access everywhere, every time, to the whole musical memory of the planet, more or less. It's very, very nice for the customer, and it's it's trying to somehow legalize the illegal market, the illegal download file sharing market. I will come back to that later. So the industry is basically trying to figure that they're richer than before, because the average customer used to pay like maybe $30-40 per year for music. The average paying customer, of course, a lot of non-paying customers. And now they pay like $10 a month, which makes 120 euros or dollars per year, which is of course much more than the before mentioned 30. So they are like, okay, this is a very, very good model, and we are trying to get the illegal guys from the street and basically turn more or less the habit of an illegal model into a legal model. That sounds very nice and very future-oriented. So what happens now? The artist says, okay, so I have my direct audience artist relation anyway, via my own social activities, my social network, my website. I have the means to distribute my music myself, because I can actually eventually, I can end up, giving my music directly to Apple, to Spotify, to whatever streaming service there will be in the near future. So what do I need a company for in between? There are zillions of app programmers out there sitting with a laptop somewhere, doing their own apps, and basically going into a direct relationship with Apple. They don't need an app record company. They do it directly. So why not with music? It's really, really easy. You don't have to deal with those folks, in the major company. You just can do it on your own. It's really cool. But of course it's not, because the issue which comes into place right now is basically the freedom versus copyright issue. Of course, there are always these stories of the artist who is forced and who is asked to basically go beyond writing music and to go beyond creating music, and that's good. It's good to somehow expand yourself as an artist and to somehow use all these different means the internet provides to express yourself. That's really, really something I would have missed 10 years ago. But what happens to value, to the value of it? We are always talking numbers, we are always talking money, and we want everything for free. And there's a whole generation out there who basically says, well, I want to hear music, but why should I pay for it? Why? And it's really difficult nowadays to explain why they should, because what you get with all these services like Spotify is basically a lifetime all-you-can-eat buffet. And as we all know, with the buffet, everything which is on there is free. It's basically paid for in advance, which means that it's nothing worth. It's there because it's there anyway. The very, very important difference between a flat rate for a DSL connection, for example, or for a mobile phone, is that the minute you're talking on the phone or the megabyte you down or upload, that's not really a creative content. That's just a thing, more or less. So it's really, really difficult to somehow transform this idea onto creative goods, so to speak. And eventually, everything which somehow touches people, which in this case is music, becomes like, yeah, it's there anyway, and you have a 24/7 access to it. You don't have to think before you listen or not. But that also, on the other hand, has a huge impact onto the reception of it. It just becomes like a megabyte. And The word freedom is really important to us, I guess. It's a big word, I know, and I think that especially in this context, speaking of freedom, and especially speaking of freedom in the internet, is a tricky thing. But the internet somehow reflects society, we think. And of course, there are certain rules in society as well. We don't like them all the time, but they are there because they're necessary for the society to somehow work out. And there have been some efforts to try to install a society without rules. They really didn't work out that well. So eventually, there will be a time when rules in the internet will have to be applied, whether we like it or not. Whether it's because of music or because of other contents, that is inevitable. That will happen and that has to happen because freedom is, there's no culture without freedom. But this very kind of freedom, where basically big internet companies make money on content they really don't intend to pay for. That's a model which cannot work in the long term. And if we want to somehow keep at least a minimum culture alive, a minimum cultural life alive, then this topic has to be brought up, no matter how unpopular it is, and no matter how you don't get much good press if you somehow try to doubt the internet's freedom in the future. But this kind of freedom people try to protect eventually is not the freedom which rises culture, but that's the kind of freedom which eventually will diminish culture and the cultural diversity. So the swarm's freedom is really important, but the swarm's freedom cannot really interfere with the individual's freedom. The artist, of course, is in a very particular situation here, because on the one hand, we have all the opportunities, like in the premises, we have our ways and means to somehow interact and to get in touch with our audience directly. We don't need anybody for that, we just can do it on our own. On the other hand, we have the record companies, the industry. I'm not a really big fan of the industry, I have to say, because in those days, we had to deal with a bunch of, let's say, small-time pimps who had no idea what they are doing. Nowadays, we are dealing with some white-collar number crunchers. The question is, what is worse? But the idea that an artist can create music, creative content, of whatever kind, in his little dark cellar chamber, and then he can basically put it onto iTunes. Then he designs his T-shirt, he prints it, he plays a concert. After the concert, he sells his own T-shirt with merchandising while giving autographs. And then he being supposed to stay creative, to give whatever the basically content industry and at the end the audience would like to listen to. That idea is complete and utter nonsense. That will not work. That has been tried before, and that will not happen. So the industry in this case, for us, is the devil we know. And to think and to picture a market without the industry, the so-called industry, will not be existent. It will not happen, basically. So whatever they are telling us, the artist, in terms of, well, you can do everything on your own. You don't need any company. You just produce your music, and eventually you can handle everything yourself. That is not that's not the deal, and that will not be good for either of these sides. So let me finish really with a passionate request to somehow keep this in your mind whenever the topic comes towards creative content and when it comes to copyright and the issue of copyright versus freedom and what is more important, the freedom of the individual or the freedom of the artist or the freedom of the internet itself, let's just try to consider that that we wouldn't like to let the freedom kill our culture, basically. Thank you very much. Thank you.